Shut up and sit down.
Greetings, fellow travelers. Obelix here, and today I want to take just a second to look at one of my Prime Day purchases from Amazon. How y'all doing today? So guys, this is a special one because it is Apollo's 50th anniversary, or was just a couple days ago, back on July 19th. So obviously a major factor in American and world history. Back in the 70s when Apollo went to the moon. This watch is a tiny little piece of that. Now, for those that don't know, the Omega Speedmaster was the chosen watch of NASA, the one that most of the astronauts, well, all of the astronauts wore when they were in flight. But let's take a look at what's inside of here. So I'm going to use my Ontario Rat 1 just to pop this case open. And we can see that this is not an Omega Speedmaster. It is a Bulova. Well, Obelix, are you crazy? No, I'm not. This watch actually went into space. So let's quickly take a look at it, and then we'll get into the history of it. So it's a little beat up case, but that's alright. It is a nice box. They did a presentation box for this one because it is a very special piece in Bulova's line. And when we open it up, boom. Very cool. What a neat little case. So we've got the Bulova Lunar Pilot here. Let's just get it off of the pillow. I like the pillow. Boy, that's kind of interesting. That triangular shape. Very cool. So it presents straightforward. Digging that. And then we've got an additional strap for, this is what the astronauts would have worn it on. And just a tool, standard tool there. So let's take a look at the piece. Really nice box though, hardwood, nice. So let's get the plastic off of it. Always a favorite part. I assume there's plastic on the back here. It is a bit challenging to get off. There we go. And of course we got a stopper here we need to get off. Excellent. And push in that crown, and away she goes. Now this is the Bulova Lunar Pilot. It is a re-release of the original. Now I'm going to grab my notes here because I don't want to make any mistakes, because you people will be all over me in the comments. But David Scott, who was born on June 6th, 1932, was originally the pilot of Gemini 8 with Neil Armstrong back in March of 1966. Then he flew the command module for Apollo 9 back in 1969. That means he got a ride to the moon, but he didn't get to put his feet on the moon. He had to stay up in the command module that would circle the moon. But then on Apollo 15, he was the commander, and he became the 7th person to actually set foot on the moon. And the mission date is August 2nd, 1971. So that was 48 years ago that David Scott became the 7th person to set foot on the moon. Now, what happened was he had his Omega Speedmaster, and they had Hesselite crystals, as all space watches have had thus far, because it's shatterproof. Hesselite doesn't shatter, and you don't want anything that can shatter. Due to pressures, obviously in space, you're going to have little glass shards flying all over everywhere. So he was wearing his Omega, and the Hesselite crystal popped out, so he couldn't use it. So he went into his personal stash, and astronauts were allowed to bring a few personal items with them on the trip. He went into his personal stash and grabbed his Bulova that was custom made for him by Bulova, and pulled that out, and this is the watch he wore on the moon. Now, Bulova re-released this piece back in 2015 to great acclaim. People were very excited to see it again, and they released it again in 2017, but this time they added sapphire crystal, so we here on Earth can have sapphire, but you can't do sapphire in space because of the shards. Let's get you zoomed in. You can take a good look at it, and it's just a typical chronograph, right? But it is using Bulova's 262,000 hertz movement, which is extraordinarily precise. Second or two a year. Just incredibly precise quartz movement. Let's take a look at the function. And you get a nice noticeable click. Obviously the pushers are a little bit different than most chronographs, but you get a real noticeable click when you push it. And that 10-second counter is just zooming around there. It'll stop at about the 30-second mark. You can see this nice sweep on the second hand. We can stop it. Again, that nice notable click, much like a mecha quartz, right? Except as you can see, this is no mecha quartz. A mecha quartz would have just popped back to the top. This is just a standard quartz, but they added the nice click on the end of the push, which is not normal. Normally quartz chronographs are very spongy. Of course, it has the tachyometer around the outside edge. Date window down here at the 4:30, and the Bulova tuning fork here on the crown. Now, if we pop this back, this is a textured leather textured leather strap that comes on. Pop the back, and we can see it. Of course, I can get it in the light there. Apollo 15, July 26th. 1971 to August 7th, 1971. EVA 3, August 2nd, 1971. Very, very cool. So just commemorating, that great moment in space history, which is coming up in just a few days. It's a nice thick strap. Look at this. See the thickness on that? Very spongy. The leather feels excellent. Good quality. Let's get this tag off of here. This guy will be worn for sure. Don't buy watches to put them in a box. They get worn. And now it is a branded loop, if I can get that to focus. Which it doesn't want to. It just says no, I'm not going to, but that does say Bulova right there. And again, it does also come with the Velcro nylon strap with the DOM, or date of mission, 8/2/1971, and the UHF hertz of the movement that's inside. Again, very high precision movement. A fantastic piece with a lot of neat space history. Let's go ahead and get it on wrist. It is a little heavier than I expected it to be. I will say, I'm wearing another piece of space history. This is a Stremansky Gagarin, and this is a kind of modernized replica of the watch that Yuri Gagarin wore on the first manned space flight. The first human being ever in space. That was back on April 12th, 1961. And he wore a watch very similar to this. It was slightly smaller in diameter, and it wasn't made out of titanium as this one is. But it was manual wind, as this one is. Had similar looms, similar coloration. Very cool little piece of space history. So the first watch in space, if you will, on the wrist of a human being, who also happened to be the first human being in space. And now we've got the savior of the Apollo 15 mission when the Omega failed. The Bulova, currently called the Lunar Pilot. It was not going to be called that back in the original day, I'm sure. But became that as part of the re-releases. This watch came up in 2015. He pulled his original watch out of storage and sold it at auction for $1.3 million. Very interesting. The Hesselite had some scratches across the top. It was really cool looking. It definitely showed its wear. It's a bigger piece than I was expecting. Wow, look at that. Definitely has some heft to it, but man, that feels like a quality piece for sure. I am loving it. But I do think that's all the time I got for this very quick unboxing. We'll get some wrist time on this guy, get a full review down the road, so be on the lookout for that. But as always, I sure do appreciate you guys coming to hang out with me, and until next time, you guys get out there, make some noise. See ya.